It's a literal fact that in other provinces there are actually people hiding in the woods because they're afraid of people out with guns. That's how bitter the fight over access to crab got in other provinces. People in the same communities. And we didn't have that because we had our act together. It was tough, there were sacrifices. I'm sure not everybody was thrilled with every detail of the outcome, but we persevered. And then in the early 2000s, kind of a funny thing happened, really. If you think of the despair of the early 90s, was there starting to be a bit of confidence around here. In the economy generally, because of the wealth from oil, and in the fishery, as the landed value of crab and shrimp in particular rose considerably. And then came a brain cramp of galactic proportions, implemented by the government of this province in 2005, called raw material sharing. The dumbest move since Rudolf Hess parachuted into Scotland in 1941. If you don't know about that, Google it later. He took it upon, Deputy Führer single-handedly took it upon himself to win negotiate peace with the British. Of course, they arrested him and threw him in jail. He stayed there ever since, until he died. And we had a fight back of legendary proportions. The only thing I didn't know when I got up in the morning was what fleet or what part of the province or for what particular aspect of the protest was today's court injunction going to come from. Because I had 6 served on me in 1 week, which I believe might be some sort of a record, I'm not sure. And eventually when we went through tying up the St. John's Harbour, Kevin Best was among the guys in Conception and Placentia Bay who tied up or kind of interfered with the traffic routes there going into the bay. Some people individuals drove into St. John's 17 consecutive days to be in the House of Assembly to protest there. And eventually it became clear to the government that this wasn't going to work, and the best thing to do was get out of it. But before it came to that, we put out the call. We had all those build-up protests, and then we said, okay, now it was time for the main event. And we put the word out to our harvesters, to our plant workers, and they came by the thousands. Most of you were there, at the Federation Building. We had a dicey spell over at the Department of Fisheries building too, as I recall. But in any event, it was clear. And when I took a turn on Prince Philip Drive and I saw the crab pot up the flagpole, I said to myself, we're in good shape here today. And then I got a bit closer and I saw the pickups chained together at one entrance. Because what we did, I don't know how many people know this, some do, we signed each entrance to Confederation Building to the members from a particular area. So the Southern Shore crowd, I think, were the ones who had the axles chained together on the pickups, as I recall. The Conception Bay crowd were out back. I never did find out, or I've forgotten who put the crab pot up the pole, but that was a brilliant move. Within a couple of days, Danny Williams announced that he was going to have a special panel look at raw material sharing to make a recommendation to government. And one thing about politics, and one thing about our business, you've got to be able to recognize the white flag when you see it. And this was as white a flag as I've seen in all my years. Because what the Premier announced was they were going to have a review, he was going to put Richard Cashin in charge, and whatever Richard recommended, he was going to do it. Blank check signed by Danny Williams. And of course, that was the end of raw material sharing. But make no mistake about what that policy was all about. That was about the transfer of power and wealth from us, from you, to the fish companies.